We commence our study this morning in James chapter 1, and we're going to be looking from verses 2 through to 4. And this is going to carry out our instructions for living a godly life and living the Christian life, beginning our journey into the book of James. Welcome once again to our talk this morning. Thank you so much for joining me as we commence this blueprint for Christian living. So let's start reading from verses 2 through to 4. This is James chapter 1. Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity of great joy. For you know when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete and need nothing. As you can clearly see here, we're not to run from tests or hardships, but to embrace them. Now that's a hard thing to swallow, isn't it? To embrace tests and hardships. Who likes going through those things? I know I certainly don't. But it's hard for us. It is. It's a difficult thing. But sometimes we have to go through them. A few years ago, I went through a difficult time in my life. I felt far from God. I felt angry with God. I just didn't know how to get out of a mess in my rut, in my brain, in my head, in my mental state. I fell into depression. And I fell into depression almost blaming God for why I was the way I was and why I felt the way I was. And it was during that time when I penned the words, "Nothing compares." Because God, again, showed me no matter what I was going through tests, I was going through hardships, I felt in a dark place. But God reminded me again of what His Son went through at the cross for me. You see, Jesus knew what it was like to be rejected. He knew what it was like to go through hardships. He knew what it was like to go through tests. He went to the cross for your sins. He went through hardships by being beaten and mocked and scorned. And that tested Him as a person. Remember when He was in the Garden of Gethsemane, He said to the Lord, He said to God the Father, He says, "If it's possible, let this cup pass from me." And it says in the Bible that He sweated drops of blood. So He knew what it was to know anguish. He knew what it was to have a test of hardships. But here, James is telling us that we are to embrace them and not to run from them. I can see clearly now why I went through that. Because it was through that I was able to write a song. But it also matured me as a Christian. It's very easy for us just to give up. But God doesn't want you to give up when the difficult times come. Let's read it from another translation just as we close in a moment or two. This is from The Voice, and it says, "Don't run from tests and hardships, brothers and sisters. As difficult as they are, you will ultimately find joy in them." Now that's crazy. How do you find joy in something that is really pulling you apart? If you embrace them, your faith will blossom under pressure. Teach you true patience as you endure. And true patience brought on by endurance will equip you to complete the long journey, to cross the finish line, mature, complete, and wanting nothing. Look at it this way. When you're going through hardships, when you're going through tests, when you're going through a hard time, God knows all about you. And he wants you to embrace these things because he wants to mature you. He wants you to stop sucking from your mother and start eating the meat, what he has for you, because he wants you to mature in him. And this is the beginning of our journey into the book of James, into the blueprint of Christian living. And remember this, sometimes we just don't know what to do in certain situations. But let me tell you this morning, God does. And God has you at the very point of where he needs you right now. God bless you. As we continue tomorrow, we'll continue on in our study in the book of James, the blueprint for Christian living. Thank you again for joining me this morning. God bless you.